Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and guess what? Long form content is finally back, and I haven't done one of these in so long, it feels so weird. But you may be wondering why I'm using this microphone and not the microphone on my headset. This one, for whatever reason, it just doesn't sound that great on here. This one sounds way better, so I'm gonna have to just use this thing and hold it. It does have a stand, but when I put it on my desk, you can't even hear what I'm saying, so I have to hold it, unfortunately. And I'm sorry if you can hear me breathing, but this is what we got right now. Maybe someday I'll upgrade to a better microphone, but for now, we're stuck with this little thing. It's not bad, but you probably might be able to hear me breathe, and I might peak the mic at times. So this is my top 10 movies of all time. I don't watch as many movies as I do like binge bands and stuff like that. So if you don't see your favorite movie, that's probably why. I've just not seen it. Or maybe I don't like it. I don't know. And I've decided to only pick one film per franchise, because if I didn't pick one film per franchise, I'm sorry, I cannot speak. If I did not pick one film per franchise, all of these movies would be Marvel movies, because when I was a kid, that's all I watched pretty much in terms of movies, was just Marvel movies. I didn't really watch that many non-Marvel movies. The only time I went to the movies was to see Marvel movies, pretty much. So yeah, that my list would just be Marvel movies. So I've decided to do one film per franchise. So let's start this list off. And by the way, I'm not gonna be able to show you video clips from any of these films due to like YouTube's copyright system. It'll block the video, and I'll have to like submit it to YouTube and be like, I've transformed this content enough to show clips in it, and I ain't doing all that, because it's not even a guarantee that I'll get the video cleared, so I'll just have to show you images. I hope that's okay. But we're starting off at number 10, we got The Cat in the Hat, and I absolutely love this movie. I'm talking about the one from 2003, by the way. I'm not talking about the new one, there's only one Cat in the Hat movie, if you ask me, and it's the one from 2003. And I love this movie. It's ridiculous, it's funny, it's silly. It's not a serious movie. It's not something you put on to watch a cinematic masterpiece, although I think it is. Just for how hilarious it is. And Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat is one of the most brilliant casting choices in all of cinema. That might be a bold claim for some fellers, but I think he does a fantastic job being the Cat in the Hat. The way he moves, the way he acts, the dialect that he uses. This movie is so quotable, and that's probably why I love it so much, because me and my friend Felipe will just stay up for hours quoting this movie, and it's just one of those movies where you could just quote all of the lines. I do feel like you need to be older to fully appreciate this movie. And if you haven't seen this movie since you've been a kid, I recommend watching it as an adult, because I think you'll really appreciate it now. Because they were allowed to get away with a lot of adult jokes in this film that I don't know if they would fly nowadays. And like even the main antagonist of the film being saying like Judas Priest when something bad happens. I don't think your average kid's gonna know what Judas Priest what that even is, unless you're growing up in a household where metal's played all the time. But like I didn't know what Judas Priest was when I was a kid. I got robbed. Alright, now coming in at number 9, I'm gonna go with Dragon Ball Z Cooler's Revenge. And I'm just gonna say this, I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, and you might be thinking, well, why in tarnation is that on your top 10 movies list if you're not a Dragon Ball fan? It's because the soundtrack for this movie is the reason why I watch it all the time. When you put metal music over just anything that has action scenes or fighting scenes, it's amazing. I don't care how bad or corny like a movie is. If it's got a 10 out of 10 soundtrack, a soundtrack can carry a movie. And usually when it if your movie's bad and the soundtrack is good, that at least makes it somewhat redeemable. And Cooler's Revenge is not a bad movie at all. This is pretty much my childhood in soundtrack form. When you've got Drowning Pool songs, Finger 11 songs, Disturbed songs, and Deftone songs, all in this movie, and you've also got Breaking Point and American Pearl, which, I'll be honest with you, the only songs that they had that were any good were the songs that made it in the movie. But putting those songs in this movie made it 10 times better than the original Japanese dub where they just had silence. The soundtrack carries this movie, and I think that's why they made a Cooler's Revenge 2, and they had no music at all, and I think that's why I don't really like that movie that much. It just feels empty without the metal music. And I think, I forgot the other Dragon Ball movie that had, metal songs in it. I think it was the Lord Slug movie, I think. That one, they had them too low in the mix. Alright, now coming in at number 8, I'm gonna go with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, this is based off Sonic the Hedgehog, like the video game franchise. If you don't know me, I love Sonic. I grew up playing Sonic. Huge Sonic fan when I was a kid. I liked Mario too, but for me, Sonic was always my favorite. And one of my favorite video games to play as a kid was Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, when you take a movie and you're gonna pretty much like adapt the storyline for Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles mixed into one thing, and you're gonna put that into like a big budget, like I guess you could say it's a blockbuster, and put that out on the big screen. That is my childhood in cinema form. How in tarnation could I not put that on the top 10 list? Because this film was everything I wanted it to be and more. And I know some fellers would say, well, the Mario movie was better. I don't think so. I think Sonic Movie 2 is probably the best video game movie adaptation movie ever made. And some might say Sonic Movie 3, but because I have more of a personal connection to this, like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I would say that the Sonic Movie 2 is my favorite. It's so cool, pretty much taking that plot line from the game and then giving it like an actual story. That was so cool. Seeing these set pieces from the games come to life in film form, and they don't really use much of the music from the games. I feel like that hurts the film in some ways. I wish they did, like, I wish they would have licensed the songs from the games to be used in the movie, because that definitely would have been cool to see. But they do use some licensed music, and when I heard Walk by Pantera playing when Eggman's in his, the Death Egg robot, when Eggman gets into his Death Egg robot and you hear Walk playing, my jaw dropped. But I absolutely loved the Sonic movie too. It was such a great film, and I was smiling the whole time while I was watching it. Now, coming in at number 7, I'm gonna go with Dio, Dreamers Never Die. This was a fantastic documentary about the life of Ronnie James Dio. His life starting out, him being like a trumpet player, him learning how to sing, being in his first bands, the rise when he would fall, when he rose back up to the top, because there was like this period where Dio was on top of the world in the 80s, selling out arenas, having this huge stage show. The 90s roll around, and Dio's back to playing clubs, and barely anybody's buying the music, and it was a really like a struggle period for him, trying to make money being an artist. Because metal was so dead in the 90s, you had, your traditional, heavy metal was dead, pretty much. You had your grunge, your alternative metal, your alternative rock, new metal was rising, but the bands that were around, minus Ozzy. Ozzy was thriving in the 90s, but take, bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Dio, all of these bands were, and the glam bands, oh my goodness, grunge massacred those glam bands. They pretty much got sent to a different planet, pretty much. Nobody was talking about those bands anymore. Unless you're Pantera, which I find that so funny that Pantera was... I consider them a glam band, but I don't consider them like pop metal, if that makes sense. In some ways that other glam bands are. Pantera is glam metal, but I would I would kind of throw them into that category with Cinderella and Skid Row. Those bands were glam metal, but they were really heavy, and that's how I feel 80s Pantera is. It's not, I wouldn't consider it really. There were moments of it being pop metal, but overall, those songs are still really heavy. And Dimebag's solos, Diamond Daryl at the time, his solos and his guitar playing was really aggressive. So I don't really consider 80s Pantera a full-on glam band, but I just find it funny how they found all their success outside of the 80s. Because when you think about it, why weren't they huge in the 80s? That type of music they were playing was really popular, so you would think that Pantera would be able to make it big during that time, but they didn't. It was in the 90s. I don't know. I find that kind of funny. But anyways, that has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. Dio Dreamers Never Die, beautiful documentary. You get to hear all these stories about Ronnie Dio from his friends and former bandmates, stories about him growing up when he was on the road with bands, and just about his life, what kind of person he was, how he could remember fans' names after at like a meet and greet. He'd still remember fans' names, how he genuinely cared about his fan base, how much he loved them, how much he loved being a frontman in a band. And to him, the thing that was most important were the fans. He didn't care about money. He didn't care if he was selling out arenas. What mattered to him was that fan base, and his core fan base. Like, he always had fans, you know? Nobody gave up on Dio. Well, maybe like the mainstream gave up on him, but he always kept that core fan base. And I just really enjoyed watching this documentary, and it made me the last part where they do talk about him dealing with stomach cancer. That was really sad to hear about, and how he was struggling with this stomach pains while on that final Heaven and Hell tour, and how he thought it would go away and it didn't, and then how he thought he would be able to beat the cancer, and then it came back really aggressive, and how he tragically passed away. That was really sad to hear about, and I'm not gonna lie, I did get a little emotional during that part in the movie. But I think it's a beautiful documentary about Ronnie James Dio. May he rest in peace. I love Ronnie James Dio. Definitely my favorite frontman of all time. So that's why that's going to sit at number 7. Coming in at number 6, Child's Play. The original Child's Play, not the reboot. Although I didn't think the reboot was bad, but nothing tops that original Child's Play. Definitely one of my favorite, I guess you would classify it as a slasher movie. I love this movie. I watched it, I think, for the first time when I was like, maybe 9 or 10, I think. But I never was scared of Chucky as a kid. I always thought he was really funny. And now he would go on like these swearing rants. I never found Chucky scary as a kid. I don't know why. He never scared me. I thought he was funny. But he definitely inspired the film series that I made called The Bear, which you'll hear more about that later in the future. I mean, you can argue that the whole killer doll thing nowadays is kind of overdone, but back then that was a new concept. And I think for the most part, this movie still holds up. Sure, the lightning CGI doesn't look the greatest nowadays, but think of the time period. For the time period, I think that was a really cool effect that they were able to make. But the movie, for the most part, is mostly serious. I think that's why I don't really like the newer Chucky things, is they try to make it too much of a comedy. I don't mind that to a certain degree, but I'd rather it stay scary than it try to be funny all the time. And they definitely went overboard on that in the later seasons, like the TV show. They made it too silly, in my opinion. That's why I kind of like lost interest in the TV series. I like season 1, but season 2 and 3 were just too goofy for my liking. But Child's Play 1, for the most part, is a very serious film. There are moments that are funny, but for the most part, it's a serious film. I think the acting in this movie aged really well, too. Especially like with the child actor that they got for Andy. That dude, he was only like 6 years old, I think, and he plays a very convincing, like, scared child. It's very impressive. And you gotta give it up for Chucky's voice actor. I don't think they should continue Chucky without that feller, because to me, you lose him, it's not Chucky anymore. That's somebody else. Who is that? That's like Charlie or just Chuck. It's not Chucky. But and I thought Mark Hamill did a pretty good job as playing Chucky in the reboot, but nobody tops the OG Chucky voice actor. When I hear that voice, the only thing I think about is Chucky, and that's what you want out of a voice actor like that. So that's coming at number 6, Child's Play. There's not really much I can say about that movie other than go watch it if you haven't seen it already. Okay, so number 5 and number 4 are going to be very similar for me because they involve the same actor, well, same lead actor, and that's number 5 is going to be School of Rock. I love this movie. It's funny, and it's honestly very wholesome to watch this movie. Just like the interaction between Jack Black and these kids, it's just very heartwarming to see, and you can tell that his character genuinely cares about teaching these children, and he cares about their feelings, he cares about their emotions, he wants to make sure that they feel better about themselves, he won't let them talk down about themselves, he encourages them. And I don't know, I just found that, like, very endearing in a way. And even, like, the character, and even, like, the arc that his character has from being selfish at the beginning to then later discovering, like, hey, I'm really good at teaching children about, like, music and stuff like that. I find it a very cozy movie, if that makes sense. And it definitely is, I would classify it as a feel-good movie, honestly. And it's got Jack Black in it, and I absolutely love Jack Black as an actor. He's probably one of, if not my favorite actor. It's just because I just love him. It's hard not to like Jack Black watching him on a screen. He's very entertaining. He's got that energy to him, that charisma. He can sell a part. He can oversell a part, honestly, just because he's so out there. He's so into it. He's so energetic. And that's probably why I like the Minecraft movie a lot, too. Hearing this middle-aged man say all of these Minecraft terms with so much charisma and so much charm, like, it's hard for me not to find that funny. But that's not what I'm talking about here. This is School of Rock. I didn't include the Minecraft movie on this top 10 list. And my number 4 also ties into it, because as much as I like School of Rock, the Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny movie, I like that movie more than School of Rock. And that's probably because it has Ronnie James Dio in it and Meatloaf. And Jack Black. I mean, that's definitely got to be in my top 10 list. Unfortunately, it didn't do that well at the box office. And I feel like the reason why it didn't do that well is because they went for the R rating. I think had they made this a PG or PG-13 movie, it probably would have sold more tickets. Especially when you have Jack Black coming off of School of Rock into this movie, and he attracted kind of like that family demographic. Making a strictly R-rated film, I feel like that hurt the Tenacious D movie. I don't think it would have impacted the story that much if they decided to make it a PG or PG-13 movie. Now, sure, they probably couldn't show the parts where they're smoking the jazz cabbage, but, and they could have toned down on the swearing a little bit. Now, I'm not one to get mad at fellers for swearing, but sometimes overusage of swear words in movies, it gets really old after a while, in my opinion. And when your film heavily revolves around swearing, eventually the words just lose all their meanings. But I'm happy with the movie that we got. I find it a very funny movie to watch. There are definitely some funny scenes. My favorite scene in the whole movie is the car chase part, where the fellers watching Jack Black and Kyle Gass in his car on like a live like cop chase. And he's like, so how are you guys doing? And then Jack Black's like, oh, we're fine, you know? And them ending the movie with Tenacious D having this rock off with Dave Grohl dressed up as Satan. That was funny. I like that. I also just find that like a very quirky casting decision. Out of all the people you could get, you get Dave Grohl. I don't know. I find that hilarious. All right, now number 3, Saw. I love the Saw films. Mostly Saw 1 through Saw, the final chapter, which was called Saw 3D at the time. Those, like that 7 run of films, where they're all interconnected, those were my favorite, by far. It's not that I didn't like Jigsaw or Spiral the Book of Saw, whatever that film's called, or even Saw 10, because I thought Saw 10 was really good. But just those original 7, how the way they were connected all like that, and the way they came out yearly, it's kind of like you're just watching this giant TV show where all these movies connect to one another. It's not told in a chronological order. You get things very piece by piece, flashbacks, back to the present, flashbacks, back to the present. I like that kind of storytelling for movies like that. And some people claim that Saw is only about the kills and the blood and the gore. To me, it's not. The reason why I enjoy the Saw films is, yes, it's cool to see the traps, but I love the investigation part of the Saw films, where it's the cop plots, where the cops are trying to like piece together like, who did this? What is going on? Who's working for Jigsaw? Who caused this? That's the interesting part for me. And in Saw 1, when you're going in completely blind, and I will get into spoilers here, so if you've never seen Saw before, I just recommend you fast forward through this, because I will be talking about spoilers. I don't want to ruin it for anybody if you've never seen the film, because I highly recommend you check it out. But when you go into that first film blind, and you see this body on the ground, you're like, oh man, that dude's dead. And then he gets up off the ground and you hear the Saw theme play. That right there, that's peak cinema right there. I don't care what anyone says. You hear that beautifully crafted Saw theme, one of the best pieces of music ever utilized in a film score at all. And even just like the Saw film, the Saw score in general. But that Saw theme, it's so beautiful. Sometimes I just listen to it out of boredom. It's just that great. And it was composed by Charlie, who was in 9 Inch Nails at one point. So of course you know it's going to be good if he's in 9 Inch Nails. But the way that first film ends, it still gives me chills no matter how many times I see it. When you see the body get up off the ground, walk over to the door, and say, game over, and then close the door, there ain't a better ending. I don't care what anyone says. I wish I was old enough to have seen that in the theater, because that would have been one of the greatest moments of being in a movie theater ever, I would imagine. Alright, now coming in at number 2, I needed to pick a Marvel film, and I picked Avengers Infinity War. I almost picked Into the Spider-Verse. I almost picked Spider-Man 3, because I really enjoy that film. But Avengers Infinity War, for me, that's probably my favorite Marvel movie. At the time, I would have told you, well, when these movies were coming out every year, I probably would have told you Endgame was my favorite, just because of the hype around it. But Infinity War, it was just so cool seeing all the Marvel characters finally, not on screen together at the same time, but just in the same movie. That was really cool. Seeing all these characters interact with each other for the first time. All of this world building that had been happening at that time for 10 years finally pay off, and to see this huge event of every superhero known to man, well, that Disney still legally owned, going against this purple guy trying to grow his rock collection. And the hype around this film, those last two Avengers films, Infinity War and Endgame, there was so much hype around those movies when the trailers came out. I remember fellers at my school would be talking about Avengers non-stop. Spoilers would be all over the place, and I was probably, I don't know if I was the last person in my class to see the film or not. I might have been, but I did get spoiled because those little weenies had to run their mouth and tell everybody how the movie ended with half the world being snapped. I mean, that would have been cool if I went in blind, but I got that spoiled for me. Thanks, guys. But on that same note, I love the twist ending they had, where you think Thor's gonna beat Thanos, and then Thanos wins by snapping his fingers. I thought that was really cool, and the way it ends with him just staring off into the sunset. Or is it like when the sun rises? I think it's when the sun rises, actually. I don't think it's a sunset. It's when the sun rises, and Thanos just smiles, knowing that he completed his mission. Such a beautiful way to end a film. That was awesome. Even though it ended on a cliffhanger. But just the hype between Infinity War and Endgame. What a time to be alive. And then after those movies, I don't really keep up with Marvel as much as I once did. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine. I didn't watch Thunderbolts. I didn't watch Fantastic Four. I heard they were good movies, but my days of being like a die-hard Marvel fan are kind of, I wouldn't say they're over per se, but I don't really consider myself like the ginormous Marvel fan that I once was. I still love those old movies though, but I don't really keep up with modern day Marvel stuff that much. I did watch Marvel Zombies. I thought that was pretty cool, but I think the comic's still better. But the adaptation that they made for the Disney Plus show, I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know why on earth though that they decided to have teenage girls be their lead, like the lead characters at the beginning. I don't understand that. Like, when I watch not a Marvel movie, but like a zombie movie, or anything that has to do with zombies, I don't want to see like 3 teenage girls trying to survive a zombie apocalypse, unless the zombies are gonna like slaughter them. But that's not who I want to lead off like a zombie apocalypse type thing. I was thinking, why not start off with the Punisher, or bring in the mutants or something, not having like Miss Marvel and her friends. That was like, why have that? But anyways, that's a completely different side topic we could get into some other time. But nothing will beat that Infinity War and Endgame hype. But I wish those little weedies at my school didn't spoil the ending. So when that movie first came out, I don't know if it was a bunch of people, but I know a handful of the kids in my school went to see it opening night when it first came out, and what do? What's the first words out of their mouths? Iron Man dies! Why would you do that? That's evil! So please, fellers, don't spoil movies for people. Thank you. Now, my number 1 movie might surprise you, but it's gonna be Whiplash. I love this film. It's pretty much the story of this kid. He wants to be a jazz drummer. He goes to the school, and one of his teachers is named Fletcher, and he expects his students to be the best jazz players in the world. No mistakes. They have to be perfect, and if they are not perfect, he'll make sure that they know that they weren't perfect. He's verbally abusive, he's physically abusive, he's pretty much just a base teacher overall. Feller holds back no punches or slaps. He's relentless in his teaching, and really shows no concern for his students' safety at all. And this kid who wants to be the best jazz drummer who ever lived will do anything to get his teacher's approval of him. Anything. He's a horrible person. He goes from being this sweet, nice feller to just, pretty much another version of his teacher. And you see him take on this transformation of him being negative, verbally abusive, aggressive to everyone. He's only in it for himself. He becomes selfish. He throws away his girlfriend because he wants to be the greatest jazz drummer who ever lived. And it's a phenomenal film. I highly recommend you check it out. I've easily watched it the most out of any of these movies I'm talking about. And Fletcher, who's played by J.K. Simmons, who plays the yellow M&M, and J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man, he's hilarious. I don't know if they were trying to make him hilarious on purpose, but his insults, they're easily the best part of the film. Seeing him go on these rants to these students, it's evil, but like, it's so funny. But I highly recommend you check out Whiplash. I think you'd really enjoy it, even if you don't like jazz music. I'm not gonna act like jazz is my favorite genre of all time. You're welcome, Ava. Genre of all time, because I still like rock and metal. But yeah, fellers, that's it. Those are my top 10 movies of all time. I definitely recommend you go check out some of these movies if any of them sounded interesting to you. Go check them out and leave your top 10 movies below, and see you fellers in the next video. See you later, and go watch some movies.